up, Misfits? Welcome to the Misfit Heroes podcast. My name is Chris, and together we are going on a journey. Misfits, I started this podcast to speak to people that are changing their communities for the positive. In order to do that, I feel this requires one key trait from the start: kindness. The intent to help others begins with this trait, and it could be said that kindness without expectations benefits both the giver and the receiver. There's even been scientific studies to prove this. In October of 2016, the University of Oxford ran a study that found that kindness increased happiness in the givers of kind acts by more than 8 points in a 10-point scale. The Bible speaks about kindness in Luke 6:35. Do good and lend, expecting nothing in return, and your reward will be great, and you will be sons of the Most High, for he himself is kind to the unthankful. My guest tonight has made an entire global social enterprise out of this concept. Naomi Lambert is the creator of the Cool to Be Kind project, an organization whose purpose is to inspire kind acts in others using kindness cards and a website that logs the kind acts inspired by them. She's also the author of a new children's book, One Kind Day, and she's looking to inspire others to do good deeds through her message of hope, overcoming adversity, and following your dreams. Her journey has led her from being paralyzed for 3 months from a spider bite to pursuing her passions of creating a kinder world by teaching others to be generous and sharing their stories for others. I did not ask if the spider bite gave her superpowers, though. That was a missed opportunity. We discussed the history of the project, stories of positivity your project has inspired, and the measurable change that one person can make on the world just by doing goodwill towards others. Stay tuned after the episode for a chance to win a gift pack from the Cool to Be Kind project. But right now, let's talk kindness. Misfits, please welcome Naomi Lambert.
Playing the Misfit Heroes podcast.
All right, Naomi, welcome to the Misfit Heroes podcast. How are you doing this morning or this evening?
This morning, I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. So we mentioned a little bit before we got started, we were talking a little bit. You're actually our first international guest on the podcast, so I'm very excited to speak to you.
Likewise. Cool, that's great.
You are from Perth, Australia, correct?
Yep.
I'm going to point out the American education system, and I do not know a whole lot about Australia right off the bat.
That's okay.
My learning of Australia is basically Outback Steakhouse and Mad Max, and I think there was an episode of The Simpsons back in the 90s. Don't know a whole lot about it, but I'm very excited to speak to you. I'm very excited to hear an international perspective about a really great project. So thank you again for coming on.
Not a problem.
Naomi, let's tell people what you do. So you are the creator of the Cool to Be Kind project. I love the name, by the way. What exactly is the Cool to Be Kind project?
It's basically just a global social enterprise that's looking to make the world a kinder place for our children to grow up in short. So, it's all about the power of community and networking and helping other people and all about kindness.
Well, I love the idea behind it. Before we go a little deeper into what you do with the program, I wanted to start with your story because in doing a little research about you, you've got a really courageous and tremendous story. So, can you give me a little backstory about yourself and what made you want to get started with the Cool to Be Kind project?
Yeah, most definitely. I have a complex medical history, as you probably might have seen online. I was bitten by a spider in 2008, so that's a little bit about Australia for you. The spiders are nasty. But it actually paralyzed me and put me on life support for coming up to 3 months, I think, and then had to learn to walk and do everything again. I had complications after that in terms of just my recovery, but it ended up that I had to have a hysterectomy in 2015, so I was 30 at the time. And as someone whose dream was just to always become a mum, I really suffered with that. And because I was so young and, I had to go through menopause really quickly after that. And it's a time when everyone, all my friends were having children. So it was really rough. And I was at the shops one day and I saw an old lady get knocked over and nobody stopped to help her. And I remember in that moment just being so kind of angry and sad at the same time that I didn't have the opportunity to kind of raise a child to at least know right from wrong. So I decided to challenge people to be kind by designing and hiding kindness cards around my hometown. So I didn't tell anyone I was doing it. There was no expectation that I'd get a response. And from the 50 cards, I got 32 responses back from people that had just done the most amazing acts of kindness from finding one of the cards. And I remember phoning up my mum and just bursting into tears and telling her about, the first email, and really felt like I'd finally found my reason, and decided to really run with kindness as a business, but not per se, just as something that I think it's an innate quality that we all have, and founded the Call to Be Kind project. So yeah, we're 3 years on now, still going.
That's awesome. I love to hear people's why. Tell me about these kindness cards. What can people expect from them?
The first lot I did was around Christmas time. So they were Christmas themed and basically that kind of squarish business card size. And they've got ideas on the back of what you can do as an act of kindness. And then usually I'll just put a quote or a poem or, just something that I've done because I kind of do graphic design as well. So, yeah, they're very simple, very colourful, and I guess it's just a prompt for people to kind of think, if they find one, to stop and go, oh, hang on a second, what's this? What can I do? Like the intrigue around it. So
Well, one of the things that I love about this, you said that you started out with 50 of these cards, and I think you said you received 32 of them back.
mhm.
Um, that was then. I mean, how much has it grown now? I mean, how many? What are we talking about? How many of these cards have you sent out?
Close to 10,000.
Oh wow!
And I do them all myself.
Oh wow!
So yeah, but it's got to a stage now where I'm getting responses from people that have found them. I've had emails from people who found them in cafes in Arizona and Brazil and in the UK. Like really, even over the past year, that's obviously still traveling to some extent to be able to get to these places. So it's kind of nice to think that we're all going through what we're going through, and someone in Brazil might find a card and actually kind of feel better and pay it forward from there.
Well, I think the idea, like I said, I think it's got tremendous potential. I think it's something that the world definitely needs, and particularly during the pandemic. When people are just struggling so much to have any type of connection. You mentioned that on the back of the cards is a an act of kindness to do, and I love that aspect of it. Sort of instilling kindness in others. What are some of the acts that you have received? What are some of the acts that people have mentioned to you that they've said they've experienced?
One of the first ones came from a gentleman who worked in a corporate setting, and he found one of the cards and actually got his Christmas lunch work function money refunded so he could take a homeless gentleman that he'd walked past, day after day going to his job, to lunch at a five-star restaurant to celebrate Christmas. I had one from a lady who had terminal cancer and decided that she needed perspective and went and um, volunteered at a homeless shelter. Things that really are so selfless and making a difference. And I've had, you can tell kind of what age range they're at, because I had one of them that said, I washed mum's car without her asking. She was so happy. So I presume that came from a child. So there's been a really
Yeah.
varied response.
I find it interesting. Kindness costs little to nothing. But one of the things that I see on your website is the log of kindness, and that costs literally nothing. You can just go onto a website and report the kindness. What are some of the things that you're hearing from that?
more simple things. I paid for someone's petrol, or I smiled at someone, or I actually wrote a letter to my grandparents, that kind of thing. So they're the simple things that people can kind of do on a whim, I would say.
The other thing that I like about this idea as well is that, um, it's about kindness without expectations in return. And I think that could heal so many of our issues that we're having right now. We've got just a lot of division in America. I don't know if you're experiencing the same thing in Australia, but togetherness is very rare right now. We've been separated because of the pandemic, and everybody's 6 feet apart, and everything is interaction strictly on social media. It seems like almost it feels weird to talk to people. So just that small amount of kindness goes so far as well.
Yeah. And I think, it would change if you put up, kindness is free. So for me, I don't feel right about charging, kind of thing. Like, I sell the kindness cards, but I think in any aspect, if you put money on it, it kind of changes the dynamic. Whereas at the moment, it's really, really organic, how it's happening. And we are very lucky over here, to be honest. Like, I'm watching what's happening with you guys, just in general over the past year. It's really rough. I think we had 4 weeks in lockdown here and had to wear a mask for 10 days. Like, I've been so lucky, but that's given me the motivation to just do things to kind of help people in other countries, and knowing that we're here to help if we can, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm super jealous if I'm being honest. we've we've had masks for a year, and it is just not wonderful.
No, no, and I'd say I kind of understand, but I don't at all.
What exactly inspired you with the cards themselves? I mean, why kindness cards?
I have no idea. I call it my 3 a.m. moment of madness, and I really don't know where it came from or what inspired the cards. But it was just something I felt like I was compelled to do. It just, uh, part of me says it was kind of a selfish thing for me to do, because I was trying to make myself feel better and maybe pass the time in the middle of the night when everyone else was asleep. Um, but yeah, I honestly don't know where as a card came from. Um, but I'm so glad I did come up with the idea, because I love the thought that someone finds one of these cards and pays it forward to me. Just makes my heart sing. Um, but it does get me as well. What is it in these kindness cards that are actually making people react? And is it the intrigue, not knowing who's done it, not, that it's rarity? Or I think about that all the time. Just what is it about finding a card that is motivating people to do something when it is innate in all of us, and it's free, as we were talking about before? But if I have to be that vehicle, then I will be that vehicle quite happily.
Over here, we've got a lot of a lot of issues, and I'm thinking particularly of like the opioid epidemic and things like that. We've got a big problem with that here, and my wife has done something similar to this for a small group with our church, where we live on the beach, we live on an island, like I said, and we she would go out onto the beach and make these little shells with art on them, and they would have little um sayings or scripture on them, and just something to brighten people's day. And it's similar to what you're doing. It's one of the things that sort of compelled me about your program. Where do you get the ideas for the acts of kindness that you're talking about?
Just things that I know that I would feel that I'd like to receive, or things that would make me smile. Um, yeah, and things that I've done for other people, and you know what I see when I'm out and about. How if I see something that isn't very kind, I'll turn it around and put it as a example of what you should do in that situation. For example, when the lady fell over, go and help her. Like, it's
Yeah.
not
Oh, yeah.
hard to help someone.
That seems simple, right?
It does, but I don't know. I think the hustle and bustle of life, kindness gets forgotten, but that's wrong. And even another example is I was at the shops a few weeks ago, and I let the elderly gentleman go in front of me, and he looked at me like I had no idea what I'd done wrong. There was this look of shock and bewilderment on his face, and I had to say, have I done something wrong? Is everything okay? And he said, everything's fine, but I can't identify what I'm feeling right now because nobody has been kind to me in such a long time, which inherently as a society is so wrong that people cannot identify how someone being kind to them makes them feel.
Yeah, you definitely don't even think about when we think about these things, we think about the effect that it has on us, but we don't think about the effect that it has on others.
Yeah, yeah. So, and it's things like that that motivate me to keep going, to continue doing the cards, to continue to smile at people, to continue to just make a difference. Um, and yeah, just help situations like that not happen.
Well, I love what you're doing. I mean, it's very exciting. So, what's next for the Cool to Be Kind project?
I had a children's book released last year. So there's another one in the works. So that's in the next few months. I really want to look at getting the program into schools. We've had, as I'm sure you have, unfortunately, had quite a lot of mental health issues, but children as young as 12 taking their own lives. Um, so I really would, and that's through cyberbullying. And so much has changed in the last year. But getting a program into schools and is a big priority for me. I'd also like to get into corporate settings as well, because I think that's missing. We've got merchandise coming out, thinking about starting our own podcast. There's so many things, but I also it just gets me every time I get emails from children or parents saying their child took their own life. And so the bullying and just teaching about kindness is such an important part, and something that I really think in the next few months is priority. I just want to lessen getting emails like that from kids and parents. So
I couldn't even imagine. I've had my first child so he'll be 2 years in June, and and not only just for the child, but he is my I mean, he has made such an impact and change in my life and dramatically changed the trajectory and the purpose of my life as well. So I couldn't even imagine. I mean, that's so traumatic for everyone involved. What's the name of the book, by the way?
a one kind day.
One Kind Day. And
Yeah.
is where can we find that? Is that on Amazon or is that on your website or?
It's online everywhere, and there is a link that goes from the website. But I've included in the back of that kindness cards as well for children. They're black and white, so they can colour them in and then pay it forward or give it to someone who needs it. So I've tried to make it tangible so that they're learning at the same time. There's a page in the back where you can talk to your parents about kindness and things that you've seen or acts of kindness that you've done. So I've really tried to make it more tangible in terms of learning about kindness. So when they go out and about, they're thinking a bit more about, what it means to be kind and hiding the cards.
Well, That's wonderful, and I think, like I said, I definitely see the impact that you're trying to make, and I see the impact that you're making. I think it's great what you're doing, so please keep doing that.
I will.
So, one of the things that we do on this podcast towards the end of the show, we have the same question that I ask everybody, and I'm interested to hear your perspective on where you're going with this. So, um, basically, what was the last goal that you completed, and what's the next goal that you want to set for yourself?
The last goal was at Christmas last year, I came up with an idea to put a community mailbox out, so that people, how the houses do like the epic Christmas lights. So I teamed up with a neighbour, so we'd have the mailbox there, and when families and kids went to see the lights, they could then post, a letter or write a note of gratitude in the letterbox. And that was a massive goal of mine, to put that into practice, but also get on television in one of the biggest shows here, which I did manage to do. So that was a big goal of mine, has been to get on the project, and I made it there. So um, that's the last one. In terms of the next one, I think getting my second book out. I want to kind of do them quite close together, and yeah, so that my next goal would be to get that out.
Wow, well, that's amazing. I mean, that you were able to get on that big of a scope, by putting a mailbox out, just by being kind, just by doing something nice for people. It's great.
And I love that I can wake up at, you know, every day I can wake up and actually do what I want with this. I can go out and be kind, and it's just taking me into so many places, and just networking and meeting people all around the world.
Well, it definitely sounds like you've discovered your purpose, and I mean, I'm very happy for you. I think that's tremendous what you're doing. So again, please keep doing what you're doing. It's great. Obviously, it's making a big enough impact to where we connected, and we're thousands of miles away from each other. And now we're talking about the things that have come to fruit from your project. So I think it's great. I mean, again, please keep doing what you're doing. So, how can people get involved with you, and how can they find you? I mean, where are you on social media? Where's the website for Cool to Be Kind project?
The website is www.thecooltobekindproject.org, and I am on Instagram, which is just at the Cool to Be Kind Project. So either of those places is the easiest.
Awesome. Well, I mean, I'm definitely excited for people to hear about you. I think what you're doing is great. Misfits, go check Naomi out. Uh, Go get involved with what she's doing. I really think that the world needs more kindness, and I think that we've got to be intentional about putting kindness into the world and just doing small things. I think you'd be amazed the big impact that you can have with just doing small things for anyone you see. So, Naomi, thanks again for coming on to the podcast. I really appreciate your time. I know you're very busy, and thank you for coordinating this with me over the time frame.
Not a problem at all. Thank you so much for having me. It's been wonderful. We'll definitely stay in touch.
All right, will do. Well, thank you so much, Naomi. Have a good evening,
You
day.
too. Thank you. Oh, yeah, good day. Thank you very much.
Misfits, thanks so much for listening to this episode. And as promised, we've got a special present lined up for you. Naomi has agreed to offer a chance to win a prize pack of kindness cards and a copy of her book, One Kind Day. All you have to do is subscribe to this podcast and share your act of kindness on her kindness log at www.thecooltobekindproject.org. Entries must mention the Misfit Heroes podcast. One lucky winner is going to receive this prize pack to inspire kindness in their own hometown. You can get a second entry by sharing the page on your Instagram and tagging at Misfit Heroes and at the Cool to Be Kind Project. Shout out to the Cool to Be Kind Project for this opportunity. What a super fun way to inspire others. Thanks again for listening, Misfits, and as always, be kind, love one another, and be a hero. Well, Misfits, we did it. That's our episode. I want to thank you so much for listening, and thanks again to our sponsors. If you want to support any of our sponsors, there are affiliate links on the sponsors tab of our website at www.misfit-heroes.com. You can also find links to all of our social media there, so follow us for immediate up-to-date info about the podcast. Please, if you enjoyed this podcast and you want to help me out, do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button so you're notified of new episodes as they're released, and make sure to leave a rating or review of the show on Apple Podcasts and YouTube. Truly, Misfits, I love you. Thank you so much for listening. And until the next time, be kind, love one another, be a hero.